and how can we help you?
Oh, hi, Dr. Cloud. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. Tell me how we can help you today.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and get right to the question, and then if you want me to explain, my question basically is how can I be more emotionally stable and less explosive when my boundaries are violated or when somebody is gaslighting me or kind of invalidating me. And I mean, I can understand where the person's coming from, but I don't like the behavior. I don't like my behavior when I react in anger, and I want to, you know what I mean? I don't want to be that way. And I know boundaries are more for me rather than trying to control the other person's behavior.
Yeah. Hey, Regina.
So that's it. Yeah.
Regina.
Yeah.
Can you just hear me or can you see me?
I can hear you. Let me get online real quick.
Oh, well, is that going to take a while? That's going to take a while. Don't worry about it. Because what I was going to do right here is I'm going to bow down to you. I'm gonna.
Don't do that.
I'm lifting you up. However, I'm honoring you in some way. Okay, sort of like in the Old Testament when they would come to the queen and they would. Okay, look, I wish the whole planet could do what you just did. Did you guys hear her? Did you hear Regina? Can we start the fireworks? Here's what the girl said. Here's what she did. She goes, I see something in myself that doesn't respond well when somebody else does something that's not good. And let me tell you why that is so huge. 99.999% of the population, if somebody else does something bad, they don't even think about how they're going to respond to that. All they can think about is how bad this other person is, and you shouldn't have violated my boundary, and you're gaslighting me. They never stop and ask the question, well, that wasn't good what they just did. I wonder what the best response to that would be.
Okay, well, I'm going to honor you. I've gone to the boundaries workshop that we have at church. I've read all your books, and then they have boundaries workshop at church, and I took it twice.
Yeah, well, good.
So I'm bowing down to you now.
All right. Well, I'm meeting you down there, right? So, look, Regina, I'm going to tell you all this, and I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to tell you this. One of my favorite verses, it's becoming a phrase now, right? Because my team always, if you're listening to the show new, I always, there's some Bible verse about a principle that'll come to mind a lot of times. I'll say, one of my favorite verses is, and they go, how many do you have? Well, a lot. But as a psychologist, one of the most incredibly powerful, evidence-based, researched, proven principles is when Jesus said, take the log out of your own eye first, and then you can see clearly to take the speck out of the other person's eye. Meaning, obviously the other person's got an issue. They just gaslighted my new best friend, Regina, right? Obviously they got an issue. I mean, if she's seeing it right, they got an issue.
Right.
But if we don't deal with the log in our own eye, our own explosiveness, our own triggers, our own reactions, we can't see clearly. We're not even seeing the other person clearly to be able to pick the best option of how to respond to them. Our anger, our hurt is doing the talking. We just heard that on the last call.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, Regina, you are on the path to holiness here, girl. I'm not kidding you, because you are
I,
stopping and saying, okay, I know people do this. In the world, you have tribulation, Jesus said, but take courage. He said, I've overcome the world. In other words, I'm not going to get infected by their dysfunction. So, first thing, you've already done the first thing, Regina. You said, I got an issue. All right. Now,
yeah.
here's the second thing I want you to do. Have you ever started to define the specific triggers of what kinds of things trigger you and what those mean to you? Or is it more blanket? You
Yeah.
just know it happens. See, a lot of times
No,
people
there's
say, well, I got a problem with anger, but they never go deeper and ask, well, what is the kind of trigger that makes me angry?
okay, well, I kind of can name a couple things. One is feeling invalidated, like don't invalidate. I don't feel worthy, like my self-esteem is affected. Like, no, this feeling, how I really feel, it's valid. I'm really. And then secondly, it's just like, it's a real feeling of just not being respected. Like, for example, a couple weeks ago, I kind of rolled through a stop sign. Okay, don't tell anybody, but now everybody knows. Okay, so I rolled through a stop sign.
I don't have to. You just told what over the couple of weeks might be a million or two people, but go ahead.
Well, as a result of going through a stop sign, I got a ticket. Well, other people go through my stop signs. I get ticked off. I give them the ticket. They don't like the consequences, and it's like, I don't want to have to go. The trigger is feeling very invalidated and not being respected. But I know that's
Wait a
more.
minute, stop. I got lost. How did you get invalidated by getting a ticket? What was invalidating about that?
No, not that. It was just an example. It was an example, but like when somebody runs through my stop signs and my stop it signs.
Oh,
and then there's a consequence. Yeah, metaphorically.
Okay. All right.
I guess feeling invalidated and not feeling respected.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you feel invalidated every time somebody invalidates you, that means that there's not enough validation inside to where you have a reservoir of validation to have immunity against the invalidation. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes, it does.
All right. So here's the deal. You take a kid from, I'll never forget this. Years ago, I was traveling. I was visiting some friends, and actually, it was in Florida, and I'm I'm at their dinner table, and they had 4 kids, and the kids were little. I mean, the one that said this was probably 7 or 8 years old. It was one of their daughters, and they asked me about a friend of ours, and I'm talking about this friend, but I kind of can't talk about it in front of the kids because they got into some trouble, and I'm kind of speaking in code and gobbledygook, and the parents are understanding, but I'm really not speaking clearly. And the little girl looks at me and she goes, "You're not making sense. What are you talking about?" And I just started laughing because here is a kid that had so much connection and validation of her perceptions and all of that, that if somebody came along that was weird, she instantly saw it. If somebody's talking to her and they're invalidating, or they're, she'll just go, "What is wrong with you?" Right? Now, that's because she's come from a healthy place. I followed that girl. Now she's, in her 20s. She's happily married, picked a very good guy. And I bet there were some idiots that came along the way, and she just got rid of them. I was a bank teller, and they train you to, they train you to not take counterfeit money. You know how? By showing you counterfeit money? No, they never show you any counterfeit money. They give you real money and make you get so familiar with how real money feels. When the counterfeit comes, you don't take it. It doesn't feel right. So I want you to go on a deep validation treasure hunt. Okay. Now you're going to have to find this in the gold mines. You don't find gold out in the sewer. You find gold in a gold mine. So
Okay.
that might be a therapist. It might be a support group. It might be a group therapy. It might be a therapy group or a support group for people who have suffered emotional abuse. It might be a friend. It might be a mentor. It might be a combination of all of these. And what I want you to be in a process where you're telling your story of how this invalidation has occurred in your life. And those, as the Bible says, your brokenheartedness is being healed. So then that tender spot is going to be so validated that when somebody comes along and hands you a counterfeit statement, you're going to go, that was weird. And you're not going to feel invalidated, and you're not going to react with rage. One of my favorite verses, it's in Proverbs. It says, the angry person is like a city without walls. Think about that. If we don't have any skin, if you have an open wound, you don't have the wall of skin, then somebody comes along and touches it, we're going to explode. Ow! Right?
Yes.
If we have skin, if we have walls, if we had good immunity, people can insult us and we don't have to answer as an insulted person. We go,
yes. Oh my God, yes.
So that's what I want you to do, okay? Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. I'll tell you one quick story. Well, I won't go into the particulars. I could name the person I want, but let's just say I know somebody who was a very, 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 very strong warrior. And another person didn't know he was, picked a fight with him. It's in a gathering of people. A strong guy said to the guy picking a fight with him, you know what? Why don't we take this outside? Took it outside. The guy went off on him, threw punches. He disabled him. He put him down. He actually put him on the curb with his jaw on the curb. And he's holding him there. And he said, now, I'm going to tell you something. This is a nice party and these are nice people. And I'm going to ask you one time, can you go back in there and be a gentleman? The guy goes, okay.
Yeah.
And he goes, all right, let's go back in there. See, he didn't have to fight back because he was strong. He didn't have to prove his manhood. But he contained it.
Yeah,
he had a good boundary. And he said, let's go back in there and enjoy the party. So I want you to
and I did make an appointment with the therapist. So I'm gonna do that.
Awesome. Okay, so you go get strong. I'm still bowing down to you because you're so incredibly on the right path. And thank you for calling.